Well, in just about an hour, Trump administration attorneys are set to answer to a Maryland federal judge on why government attorneys want to use something called state secrets privilege in the case of a man mistakenly deported to El Salvador by the Trump administration. So you are looking right now outside the courthouse in Greenbelt, Maryland, where Abrego Garcia's supporters, and there they are. They've been at the microphones. They've been behind the people at the microphones holding up signs. They're also singing songs of protest as they continue their call to bring Mr. Abrego Garcia back to the United States. So let's kind of go over a timeline here. He was arrested by ICE in Baltimore March 12th. He was then flown with other migrants to a notorious Supermax prison in El Salvador shortly thereafter. ICE admitted the deportation was an administrative error. So Abrego Garcia had legal protection that was supposed to keep him from being deported. In April, a federal judge and the U.S. Supreme Court both ordered the Trump administration to facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's return to the United States. Earlier this month, the Justice Department asserted something called the state secrets privilege. In answer to all of that, they filed it in court, leading to today's hearings. So that brings us to this next conversation. Glenn Thrush covers the Justice Department for the New York Times. Glenn, catch us up, first of all. What is the state secret privilege for our viewers who may not know what that is? Because we know that that is really what the Trump administration is going to stand firmly on.
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. What they're arguing here is that divulging certain information involving this case would potentially endanger individual human sources of intelligence and reveal various state secrets that are included in classified documents. Now, that seems to be a relatively reasonable request if we were dealing with an issue that dealt explicitly with national security. But it should be noted, the government has thrown the kitchen sink at this case. In front of the two federal judges that have adjudicated this, have repeatedly pressed the administration for specific information about how the decision to continue with the flight to send Abrego Garcia to El Salvador proceeded when Judge Boasberg in Washington initially told them not to do so. And so what we're dealing here with is essentially a jerry-rigged, to put it, I think, politely, approach by the government to figure out a justification for not producing more documentation. Now, in this case in Greenbelt, there were a number of documents produced by the government under seal that they claimed were classified. And we learned not directly from the Justice Department that they were going to invoke state secrets, but in an order from the judge calling for this hearing to take place. It's all extremely complicated. It's very convoluted, but to cut to the chase, the government is attempting to use the potential for classified information. And remember that, again, this is not a national security issue per se. It's about an individual. And the judge is pressing them for information. So essentially what this amounts to is either a stalling rear guard measure to keep them from having to disclose things to avoid a constitutional confrontation, or they are hoping that there is something contained in these sealed filings that we don't know about that might actually change the nature of the case. But in general, this is a gambit by the government to stall.
Well, and so much has been put out there when the conversation really is about due process under the law. Let's play this out, though. If the judge rules that the U.S. cannot use that state secrets privilege or argument, what impact could that have on immigration policy in a larger sense going forward?
Well, this administration has invoked emergency powers on any number of occasions. And we saw a couple of weeks ago, actually, I think it was only a week ago, Stephen Miller floating this idea of suspending habeas corpus, which is something that happened during the Civil War. So we're really flirting with these extraordinary measures based on an interpretation of a national emergency at the border that doesn't seem to be borne out by the actual facts on the ground. Now, nobody is disputing on either side of the aisle, or judges aren't disputing factually, that there are immigration challenges in this country, and that the federal government, that the executive branch under the Constitution has broad latitude on immigration. None of that stuff is in dispute. The question is, they are now attempting, the Trump administration, and Stephen Miller particularly, one of his top advisors, are pushing this very, very extreme notion that you can invoke emergency powers. And that's why we're seeing this flirtation with the national security issues.
All right, Glenn Thrush, thank you so much. And you remember the old phrase from one very popular movie, nobody sits you in the corner. You got to take yourself out of the corner next time I talk to you, my friend. You have a great day. Thanks for breaking that all down for us. Well,